Hey, welcome back to the channel, Brainiacs. In today's episode, we're playing against the newly updated CPU, Sicilian. This is one of the first games out there versus a powerful engine in modern chess, so we're still learning exactly how strong the CPU is. With no further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's jump into a game of modern chess. I default to e4 by nature. c5 is the Sicilian. This is a romantic classic. Knight to c3. My favorite line continues to be the Grand Prix attack when I face the Sicilian, so I'm trying to guide the match in that direction. e6 and jet deployed. This is called the closed variation of the Sicilian. So the Fuseki, or opening structure for today, I'm calling it a modern closed Sicilian. Pawn to f4. Not precisely the Grand Prix attack I was hoping for, but whatever, let's fight with some chess pieces, bro. Okay, we see pawn to d5. Pawn to d5 is a special move for this game. This was my first clue that I'm not playing versus the silly bot we knew from before. No, the old CPU logic couldn't formulate something this powerful. Right away, I'm threatened by the CPU advancing its heavily reinforced d-pawn. At this point in the game, we are just in a book line. No side is either winning nor losing. Things are generally equal, however they are not symmetrical. Part of the reason we all love the Sicilian is because of its asymmetry. In retrospect, I probably should have stuck with the main theme of this formation, which is to advance my e-pawn to e5, beginning to apply a bit of pressure on the king side. However, this opening had me feeling like I wanted more of this mayhem. I decided to throw the first punch by capturing pawn takes d5, because up to this point, Silibot had not fully earned my respect. I'm thinking I can handle whatever the CPU throws at me. This f-pawn now becomes something of a sour pawn. When you begin to compare my forward pawns versus the CPU's forward pawns, we'll see that white's position is inferior. The fundamentals will prove to matter in the end. This position is definitely playable if I can play smart. Here comes my losing move, knight to b5. This move is the kiss of death, and we'll see I'll actually never be able to recover from this wasted move. A wiser decision would have been to develop one of my minor pieces towards the center. The first principle, to develop my pieces towards the center, would have saved me. But in this game, I failed to remember that principle, which is key. I like to say that in chess, you can't necessarily win the game with one good move, but you almost certainly can lose the game with just one bad move. If you want to know what a losing move looks like in modern chess, then search no more. I have in front of you the kiss of death, as we shall see later in the game. Ladies and gentlemen, learn from my mistakes so that you don't have to make them. Do not advance an attack until more of your pieces are in position. A premature attack is not actually potent. Black fully ignores the white attempting to badger the CPU's tank with jet to h4 check. With my dangling f-pawn, the natural inclination to block any attacks along this dark square diagonal is simply g3. Now we see tank to e6 check. The game begins to take a different tone here. The demise of white's position is fairly swift, friends. I'd say quickly between the fourth move pair and the sixth move pair of the game, the CPU has fully taken control of the match. I will be placed on the defensive from here on out. Chess is always a roller coaster of emotions. In this game, I'm actually super stoked because witnessing Silibot make brilliant chess moves to me is like watching one of your kids score in a basketball game. We are super stoked to see the students surpass the teacher. In previous games, once I deployed my pieces, it was game over for the CPU. Not today. I don't like the fact that my CPU is beginning to place its powerful pieces so closely towards my king. The jet placed on h4 is far more threatening than it looks. What I'm about to say next is counterintuitive, and it will take me a few episodes to flesh out this idea. But the jet, despite being made up of two weaker pieces than the queen, a bishop and knight supposedly worth perhaps 6 or 6.5 points, versus a bishop and rook, which is supposed to be worth 9 points, the jet is not so easily brushed off. The jet's ability to jump over pieces poses a unique set of threats. So back to my move, queen to e2 jet deployed. I offer a trade which my opponent can't refuse. I give up my queen early in the match. I feel like I'm handsomely compensated because I can easily recapture this tank. In fact, I have 4 pieces which can capture the tank. My jet, king, bishop, and knight can all capture. A, B, C, or D is the infamous exam question. Choose carefully, Brainiacs, because one move is more right than the others. My move selection was the wrong choice, despite feeling like I'm making progress by getting rid of some of my opponent's well-developed pieces, namely capturing the tank with my bishop while simultaneously badgering the CPU's jet. A better move selection would have been to capture with my jet or knight because That would have ensured a critical defense of my g2. It gets worse for white. I really don't want to give up my rook. We know that in modern chess, we can fight when down in material when we're up in position, but I'd really like to avoid losing my rook so easily and avoid the long game while being down in material. I tried to make something of a cagey move, so in a somewhat desperate situation, in a desperate attempt to save my rook, I choose to deploy my tank when I moved my king for the first time. By doing so, I offered the CPU more material, a tank to capture. Net in, net out, the CPU is actually winning less material because I get to trade a tank for a jet instead of just losing a rook. I feel like I'm making at least playable defenses despite feeling like I've lost a serious tempo advantage, like 2 tempos. I've lost my right to castle, and now here comes the haymaker punch, which totally knocks me on my butt. The humble pawn to a6.
Give me your best. Let me see your best.
Absolutely bringing down the house. a6 is a very special move because it reminds me of the pawn structure we'd find in the Najdorf, a classical and timeless variation of the Sicilian. Tournament players will know that control of this b5 square is important for many lines of the Sicilian involving a defense to the vulnerable light square diagonal for black. Just like with our beloved Najdorf, the humble pawn to a6 is actually more of a sledgehammer as far as pawns go. Talk about a hero. Pawn on a6, I salute you. Out of all my questionable moves, I think knight to b5 was the most wasteful. Now the move pawn to a6 is what reveals the dubious nature of knight to b5. The tank I thought I was attacking earlier, that was just an illusion in the murky waters. That tank is long gone. This is a familiar position and a totally losing position for white. I retreat. Pawn captures on d4. Oh boy, this is what I call the sit-down move. The sit-down move is when we are forced to return a piece to its starting position. Every chess player in the audience knows how embarrassing this feels, right? Avoid this at all costs, my friends. Please learn from my mistakes. So I am forced to sit down and I am not happy if I'm playing to win. Not only was I caught off guard by how powerful the revamped brains are, but also, frankly, the CPU is just embarrassing me. This is the point of the match where I just simply tip my hat. It's been a virtuoso performance by the CPU. The pawn structure is rock solid, and actually the pawns are spearheading the attack for black, which is revealing to be absolutely dominant. Every mistake I've made has been punished, and the CPU's attacks are super efficient. I'd categorize obtaining such a dominant position within 12 moves as masterful play by the team's newly developed AI. Knight to e4 is surprising to me. The CPU decided to not develop one of its minor pieces, one of the same problems I made earlier, but we know a knight in the center is also something of a statement move. So I'm not exactly happy about this knight in the center if I'm playing to win. At this point in the match, the experience for me was like, imagine playing a game of Halo on beginner difficulty, then switching it to legendary. We're going to want some guidance from our professional player friends on how to navigate when we're playing versus a ridiculous robot machine that punishes every mistake. Everyone in the audience, including my grandmother, is screaming at me to develop your pieces. Develop your pieces towards the center. HODLPawns, have you gone mad? I tried to get my pieces going with knight to f3, but folks, I'm toast at this point. Knight to c6 is a super common response we'll see to knight to f3. I tried to utilize the same tactic I did earlier with knight to d2. I tried to trade off one of the CPU's well-developed pieces in order to alleviate some pressure off my king. I feel like maybe I can make progress if I can make the CPU start needing to develop from the back lines again by trading away the pieces it has already developed on the front lines. The CPU continues to defy all my expectations with queen to e7 ignoring the trade. Folks, I really wanted to trade knights and land my bishop pair together on d2 and e2, but folks, I can't. The CPU is like, no thanks, come and take it. And now any hopes of developing my pieces without using expletives has gone out the window. Brainiacs, the CPU's bishops are in the same undeveloped predicament as mine. But folks, wow, does it feel so much worse for me playing as white. I mean, just look at our pawns, knights, and major pieces. Probably the last cardinal sin of the match. Folks, don't trade away when you're down in material. I should not have traded knights when I'm down 2 points. Students watching and learning. The slow game, sticking to principles, taking that one extra move to develop instead of rushing to attack is the moral of this story. After trading on e4, the CPU first makes me squirm, wishing I was already checkmated, but proceeds to further embarrass me just to let me know who's the boss now.
Look at me.
Sure.
Look at me.
Sure.
I'm the captain now. You like a bushman?
I told you earlier I was toast when I brought out my knight to f3, Brainiacs, because it's just too late for me. This is so brutal in chess terms that it's outlawed in some countries. Knight to b4. The CPU smells blood on c2. I'm ready to meet my maker, the chess gods. No point in saving the queenside rook. We're already staring checkmate right in the eyes. The match was decided long ago, and we are now just beholding how efficiently the CPU can bring about checkmate. The CPU is not like the average chess player tempted by the rook. Queen to c5 check. Let's now give a round of applause to our newly graduated chess engine. A striking and elegant knight to e1. Almost like poetry, the final landing square is that same piece of territory which my king began on, e1. Brainiacs, how often can you checkmate your opponent while delivering the final blow on the king's square? Bravo! A virtuoso performance by the revamped modern chess CPU. Bravo! It's available for free to play at www.modernchess.net. We've covered a lot in just 21 short move pairs. We saw pawn structure, deployment, we briefly touched on tempo and why losing tempo is so important in chess even if it's just one move. Today's game is a powerful lesson on how we can lose if we forget to develop our minor pieces with each and every move during the opening sequence. We got to see some chess poetry in motion, some new and some old. I'm super thrilled to share the CPU tool with you. This can be yours for free by creating an account on www.modernchess.net. All the work I do here is free, so please help the channel with a like and subscribe for the video. Brainiacs, I wish you the best rest of your day. I've got to get mashing on the next video. Can't wait to be back again. Until next time, HODLPawns, over and out.